Hey guys, Robbie K here, coming at you with yet another movie review. So apologies if you're getting sick of my voice with how many movies are coming, but hey, that's the holidays for you. Tonight we're taking on another big blockbuster that seems a little late timed, but comes at it with hopefully enough magic and gusto to make it fun. Yes, I'm talking about a series that's had a little bit of a rough streak, or a lot of rough streaks, depending on the kind of fan you are. So you never quite know what's in store, though, because as the movie comes back out as a prequel, we're hoping it's going to breathe some life back into it and potentially set us on for a good round. What the heck am I talking about? Have you still not figured it out? Well, in case you haven't read the title, it's Bumblebee. The latest Transformers installment to hopefully bring with it a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and the same robot-on-robot fighting that you absolutely loved, or maybe hated, in the previous one. But what's in store? That's where I come in. Welcome to Robbie's Movie Reviews. Thank you for checking me out. If this is your first time, let's kind of break it down for what we do. We start with the trailer based on what's there, and not give any spoilers. Again, a spoiler-free quick review is the first part of it. And finally, for those who want a little more detail, stick around for the second part, and I'll give you the full-fledged review. Let's get started as we review again Bumblebee. For once, not directed by Michael Bay, Bumblebee is the prequel telling about how the little yellow robot that has charmed his way into so many hearts has landed essentially on Earth to take over the mission of preparing it for what will hopefully be the first movie as we were told in the trailer. Along the way, he meets a girl played by Haley Steinfeld. The character's name is Charlie. And through some zany adventures, including meeting up with John Cena as the Corporal Commander, he's attempting to find his way through the new world while trying to handle the Decepticon threat that may be looming on the horizon. As such, there looks to be a lot of heart, a lot of comedy, and potentially a lot of action based on what the trailers do. But hey, that's a trailer. They're experts at baiting you into it. So what's the deal? Well, in terms of the quick review, I have to say that I do agree with a lot of the trailers. The best of the Transformers to ever hit based on a lot of qualities. Unlike many of them, the comedy wasn't the main focus. It was well integrated into there, and bringing with it some character development, some actual bonding, and looking at kind of Bee's new journey, taking a very interesting approach I wasn't expecting. And of course, making sure to integrate it into the grand picture, all while trying to keep the action component in there as balanced as possible. It works on a lot of varieties, and it is definitely a different movie than what you thought. No forced potty humor like we saw in a few of the other ones. No illegitimate jokes, and no trying to jam so many jokes into a single Autobot's ramblings and rantings to annoy the heck out of you. It works extremely well. So kudos and bravo to them being able to accomplish that balance. Now, there are some other things that are still offside. Of course, there's a little more action that could have been done. You could have had a little better integration of John Cena's character, and there are, of course, number of kind of plot components in there that people are going to either hate or people are going to find weak. But again, this is a Transformers story, and it's a lot better than what we've seen in the past. And while the animated series still will hands down have the better storytelling due to the number of episodes and the fact that they had a lot more time with it, I can definitely say that movie-wise, it took a big step over. So in terms of its kind of genre category, where are my rankings? Sci-fi, action, adventure, components of there, and maybe throw in some comedy if they went that direction. I'm going to have to probably give it an 8. In terms of movie overall, it's probably about a 7, to be honest. Again, not necessarily the most put-together movie, but definitely a lot of potential if they decide to take it where it is. But hey, that's just another Robbie's Movie Reviews coming in to give you my opinion. Always would love to hear your opinion, so if you wish, please hit me up. But if this is where you're done, thank you very much for checking in. Please like, share, help me make this better and expand to more people. I get it that there are a lot of other guys out there who have more fan base and following. So, I've gotten a lot of ideas from them. But as always, please kind of share and look through and help me get better. Anyways, let's look into those who want a little more detail, with starting with the likes. As I said before, this is a movie that does a very nice job of stepping away from the special effects palooza and putting it into a better retrospective component. And what I mean by that is, let's start first with the character development. Bumblebee surprisingly does a nice job of taking a human lead and a CGI animated lead and somehow enveloping them with very good character, good development, and something that didn't make me want to just say, how in the world did this character ever get created? Yes, rather than the comedy approach that was taken in the first 5 movies, the writer and director of this one decided to really give a more realistic and humanistic approach, bringing in some other characters that help develop it, secondary characters for support and contributing, but still focusing on this great relationship. And the other has to be, I love seeing the relationship between Bumblebee and Charlie. It works extremely well. Part comedy, part new fostering, and then a lot of surprisingly heartfelt character moments that really rocked and could have made for one heck of a wild ride. And it really showed in that scene. Now again, there are other relationships and integrations that were probably missing there, and perhaps another movie could have helped with it. But nevertheless, I felt a lot of people played their roles in it. In regards to the comedy, again, comedy isn't a bad thing at all. But like anything, overutilization often leads to too much cheesiness or annoying factors, at least to a lot of people to whom I've seen on previous reviews. And in this case, again, while the comedy isn't the most gut-busting that we've seen in some other films, it works. Well-timed, good references. The fact that it takes place in the 80s puts lots of nostalgic references in there, and it works very well with the character quirkiness of Bee, which I, again, love to see that integration. Timed well, enough in there not to grow stale and be bored, but at the same time, not skimping to make it just a mundane thing. Again, well done in terms of balanced storytelling and components like that. Now, if you're still not up for the case of it, what else can I kind of talk about? Oh, in terms of special effects, we know Michael Bay is big on explosions and pyrotechnics and blowing stuff up even more. And then again, still never thinking it's enough. And while I can't say Bumblebee is the most reserved in use of the Hollywood magic, it's a lot better than what we've seen in it. Not so much focused on just making fiery infernos of special effects rumbling. Bumblebee really finds that balance of using computer animation and special effects, meeting again just kind of real life footage. So bravo for not drowning us in a special effects milieu. And when this CGI does come in, it's again very well utilized to either give good character development, make interesting design, and of course when it comes to the fighting, it's top notch. Now, we're about to get to my favorite parts. I'm just making sure. I gotta say, the musical score, both my mom and I, when we saw this, absolutely loved it because it picked songs that were very much in reference to the decade that it was in. And again, if you're not a big fan of 80s music, too old school for you, then again, you won't probably like that part of it as much as I did. But again, I love the character component that came with it, the good utilization, and hey, the tracks are definitely toe-tapping. So bravo to that. If I had to look at everything too, I can say that unlike some of the previous Transformers, the timing is actually really well done. Just a little over 2 hours and not the 2.5 to nearly 3 hours that the last two have been. Bumblebee catches that time component really well, and with a good pace kind of moving and not kind of getting stuck in like a Sam Witwicky rambling or a convoluted story that no one needs to see, or even some unnecessary character introductions. The movie again works, showing that with the right writing and some good direction and not so much a special effects popcorn palooza, you can get a really good story out of a surprisingly out of a franchise that most people would not expect it to. But of course, you know where I'm going with my favorite component, and that's the action that the series is known for. And I can say that right off the bat, Bumblebee already exceeds what a lot of them have been unable to do. A fast-paced opening on Cybertron, which again is in the trailer, so it's not spoiler, really kind of shows you a movie that could have great potential if they decide to pursue that to be an awesome flick that the games were. And something I really hope to see a prequel to this prequel as well if they go down that route. But again, making sure to look at what type of movie this is going to be. No pun intended. Anyway, watching this continuing to go, I can also say that the action then, once it hits Earth, finds a balance and stride. Not too much special effects, not so much adrenaline components, and surprisingly a little more balanced in terms of diversity, with a fantastic finish that maybe I wanted a little more of, in terms of just the final conflict, but still definitely much better than a lot of the ones we've seen. And again, you know I'm going to want more action, so let's kind of hit to the areas of improvement and start there. When it comes to Bumblebee, I wanted more Cybertron, and I wanted more fist-on-fist action. Again, I think that they found the balance given the type of movie they were going for, but a little more into that world would have been just fine for me. And again, this is a small dislike because, again, the action was there, and there was only maybe one span where it could have used a little more excitement. But hey, again, a top-notch shot there. I guess in regards to anything else I'm looking for, there are some plot components, and while many people may not find this as a dislike, it all depends on the goal of this. If this movie was sent here to essentially reset the series, if they decide to go this route, then this dislike is going to be irrelevant. However, if this is meant to continue the trend, then it's not so much that I really am going to go crazy over the fact that they didn't pay attention to detail, but they didn't. Based on the mashup and mess that the Fist story was, Bumblebee has off-written some of those things. And as such, while that's probably going to be a good thing in the long run, it's just attention to detail depending on which route they go. So yeah, maybe looking a little more into those focuses. I can also say that the Decepticons are there, and again, we know that the Decepticons are the big bad brutes, and yes, it is about Bumblebee. But perhaps a little more in-depth with some of them, or at least showing some of the other key players in the Decepticon role, because this is going to be a little confusing depending on which direction they choose to take. Again, I'm hoping this is more of a reboot than just a sequel to lead, or prequel to lead into it. But you never know. And again, if it does turn out to be a reboot, then it really doesn't matter about the last two dislikes. If I really had to say my most legitimate dislike outside of wanting more action, of course, I can definitely say that the one thing I probably would have liked a little more of was John Cena. You know, when it came to some of the agents in the past, and based on what the trailer was, I was expecting a little more integration than what they did. And it's not to say he's not in the movie, hardly. It's just the character didn't quite have the same prowess that we've seen some of the other characters do. And again, with a guy like John Cena, you think that they would capitalize on him a little more. And maybe he might have been the little overstretched comedy. But again, I don't necessarily think the director took the right liberties with him and probably needed a little more functioning into it. But still, better than some of the other guys that we've seen in the list. Nevertheless, here's what we've got overall for it. The movie turned out to be much better than I was anticipating. And I can honestly say that if they go in this direction and revitalize the series, making sure not to go down kind of the gimmicks and potty humor and things like that we've seen in the past, but really working on a story component, balancing that action, and gripping this kind of character focus and development, it could be a fantastic start. And should they decide to take this over and do it, the goal is, again, finding ways to balance it, and the next step being giving a lot of the Transformers their fair share and due, and not just on the merchandising of the two guys that you can see down there, but really looking at some of the others. That's the thing that I'm hoping to see in the future if this movie series continues on. Now, nevertheless, you've already heard my scores. Probably an 8, 8.5 in its category, and a 7 probably a movie overall. Now, again, I'm going to leave you on this. If you hate the Transformers and think that their cinematic role should be eliminated post-haste, I hear you on that. And then you're not going to want to see this movie because of the bad taste it's left in your mouth. I myself, though, found it very enjoyable. I really had a lot of fun with it. And while definitely not a perfect movie, a step in the right direction in terms of how to make the series. And I would agree, the best of the bunch, because it found a way to balance the aspects and still give you the adrenaline rush. So, bravo, the director and the writer, kudos, and I'm hoping to see this again if you decide to go from it. Nevertheless, guys, thank you so much for listening to my ramblings. There will be a written version up with maybe a different approach to it. So if you like the printed word and hate my voice, you got that aspect. But otherwise, thank you very much. Please share, like, help me make this better, and we'll talk to you soon. Again, we got reviews tomorrow, so get ready. You won't be quite away from it. But until then, if I don't see you, happy holidays, everyone. Bye.